Hi everyone, it's Kelly with the Appalachian Booksmith, and I am here for part 2 of making the double journal. And of course the double journal, I'm working on this one here, which is my Edith Holden book, which waited a long time to make an Edith Holden book. Kind of excited about it. Today we're going to basically put together the cover. And on the first video, I made a mistake. And I said that we need 2 pieces of fabric cut for the spine at 2.5 inches by 8 3/4 inches. And actually we only needed 1 at 2.5 and 8 3/4. We needed the other one at 2.5 and 10 inches. I'm so sorry if I messed anyone's fabric up. If you've already cut it, it's actually going to be okay. There's just going to be a line there, but it's easy to cover that. You could do some decorating on the spine that will cover that. It's no big deal. It's all going to be covered with the fabric. It's just whether or not on your outer spine you have a line where the 2 fabrics meet, basically. Also, my dogs are in rare form, and if they start barking, I'm going to tell them to be quiet. If it gets bad enough, I'm going to pause the video and have to edit, I'm sure, which I am not particularly good at editing, but I've been working on it. So what I'm going to do first is take the bookboard pieces and glue them to the fabric. Now, when I did this with the Edith Holden book, I went ahead and glued the fabric on with glitter glue because that's how I glue on my fabric when I do embossed books or books that have the curved spine. And I've never had a problem with it. And so I went ahead and did that with this one. And for the first time ever, I had some of the bookboard warp. So I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go ahead and use the Fabri-Tac. Well, actually, this one's the Magna-Tac, but I think it's all kind of the same idea. And the reason I'm going to use this is so I don't get that warping, but I'm a little concerned it might show through. But if it shows through, I'm just going to use fabric to kind of clean up those edges. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. I went ahead with a chalk pencil, one of these washout clothes marker, they're kind of like a chalky pencil. I went ahead and drew myself a straight line because one of the most important things when you're gluing these together is to get those on a straight line. So when it folds together, the corners all meet up. Nice, it keeps it nice and neat and tidy. You don't have to do that. You can lay down a ruler, and as you glue them, you can just make sure that each piece you put on butts up against the ruler that's butted up against the piece before that. Totally up to you. I'm going to check and make sure I'm still. Yep, I'm still in. Wasn't sure. Sometimes I move things a little bit too much. So I'm simply going to glue them on, and I'm going to glue them, of course, using that line, and I'm going to use the tacky glue. I'm sure this is nothing new to you guys. Not the tacky glue, I'm so sorry, the Fabri-Tac. I'm going to attempt to speed this part up with editing, but no promises. Okay, that worked out really good. This is a hand-dyed fabric. It's a batik, so it's been really generous to me. There are some places where that glue went through, but it's really hard to see, specifically because of the print I chose. It is a very, very forgiving print. What I'm going to do now is reinforce the spines, and I am doing it with Tyvek in the United States. This comes in packages that are mailed to you. I seldom get packages that show up in this. I just don't luck out. So I have to ask friends. I have a friend who's a postmaster, and she's told some people and they show up with these. But the most important thing with the mailing stuff like this is that you really do want to use the used. I'm going to glue those on using the Fabri-Tac, and I will be right back. Okay, I've got the Tyvek on, and I was going to point out that you could also use the Tyvek tape. You could use a piece of light cardstock here. You could use, I mean, we're going to be putting fabric here, so you don't 100% have to have this. It's just something that I like to do. Now, once it's dry, I do kind of fold it and crease it, but I wait till it's dry because I've noticed sometimes I'll get a real bad gap on the spine if I don't wait for that Tyvek to dry. It's almost like the glue will catch and suck that in. And I think some people like that look. I just don't. So once you get this done, then you're going to wrap this around. And I'm sure y'all have seen this several times, but what I do is I cut the corners at an angle, and some people leave a 1/4 inch. I just think it just depends on what you're comfortable with. Some people use rulers. I never do. I'll probably regret it one of these days. But basically, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to chop off these corners, leaving that space. I want to leave the space because I'm going to tuck it and make it nice and neat and tidy. Sometimes it isn't. Oh, by the way, and I save these because later on when I'm decorating this book, I'm going to sew. Sorry about that. My tablet told me I was out of space. I needed to delete things. But what I was saying is I keep these little corner scraps and I use them in the journal. I turn them into little snippets and whatnot. They can become part of little collages. I can use them on Okay, this is actually take 2. I already did this other side, but somehow, because me and technology have issues, halfway through the video, I started filming in slow motion. So thank goodness we have another side to do. And what I was explaining in the other half was that the corners can be tricky. I watch people do it and they're always like, oh, it's so easy, but it never seems to be that easy for me. I try. Sometimes I just push down here and then fold it up like so. And even though that's a little frayed, I really don't mind that because eventually it's going to be covered with end papers. Sometimes if it looks like there's too much, I might fold it over once, like kind of, it's so hard to see because my hands are in the way, but I fold it over and then bring it over. And I don't mind that either. As long as I don't have big frays of fabric sticking out, I'm okay with it. And honestly, I'm using Fabri-Tac, so I'm not going to end up with a lot of those. Of course, my Fabri-Tac's being crazy on me. Somehow it got a hole in the bottom of it, and it's squirting out the side. We've all seen that. But Since I'm using fabric tack, I'm not 100% concerned because it really does hold that. Even if I have some fibers sticking out, it does a really good job holding those fibers. So what I usually do is I'll put like a drop of glue when I get ready to glue. That first drop usually goes right about here, so I know I've got some there. I'll follow this line, and then I just go all the way down to the other side. Sometimes I get a little bit of a kink in this when I start to put it up, because I'll put one side up, and the other side, you know, needs, gets a little off, but it's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of fold this side in a little bit, and then bring it up. And like I said, I'm okay with that. That looks pretty good to me. And I just push on it, and that glue just kind of gets in there and takes over and makes it go into place. And then I'll switch it over to the other side, same thing. This one is a little bigger, I think. I'm gonna fold it in. This side's probably not gonna cooperate. Oh, I got a little bit of a lump there, but I don't mind. Again, I'm not gonna get real upset over it. I don't get upset about extra glue here either, because, I'll pull that out. Because what's going to happen, see how I've got that messy glue everywhere? It looks like, oh my gosh, it looks terrible. But what's going to happen is this is one of the insides. It's going to get covered with this end paper anyway, so I'm not going to be real upset about it. I'm going to go ahead and straighten that up a little bit, and I will be back. Okay, all I did was go through and just put a little glue here and there under the fabric to make sure most of it is laying flat. Now's the different part. This is the folding part. When I fold this journal, I'm gonna fold it over like this, and then this part's gonna go over like this. So this is now my front cover. This is my two inside covers. I'm gonna flip it over, and this is my back cover. Now my back cover doesn't have fabric on it. I am gonna put a piece of paper on this, but if you wanted to have fabric, all you'd have to do is cut a piece of the fabric and wrap it around and over, because it's, when you wrap it around and over, this is going to become one of your inside pieces. So if you wrap a piece of fabric, you don't even have to sew, just wrap it and glue it, because this is going to cover that. That's your choice. I've decided I'm going to use a piece of paper on that. So I have my front cover, my inside. So this is now an outside spine, and this is now an outside spine. So when I put my spine fabric on, this right here, since this is an outside spine, I need that longer piece, because I want that longer piece of fabric to lay on here, and I want to wrap it around. I want to lay it here, I want to wrap it around, so that when I put on my end papers, you know, they're going to really cover that. But since this is an outside spine, I'm not going to have that fabric seam there. So that's why I'm going to do that. So sometimes it's easy if you just kind of even mark it, like you might want to write, you know, inside front and back cover. And this is going to be an exposed spine. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to glue this piece of fabric here and wrap it around, and then I'm going to glue this piece of fabric here, and I'll be back. Okay, I have the two spine pieces of fabric, and again, because this one is an outside spine, I took the fabric, made it a little longer, and folded it across, because this is going to be covered with signatures, so it doesn't matter, it's the inside. But I wanted that outside spine to be clean and crisp with no lines in it, just like the other outside spine. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to be putting in the inside cover. So this is the actual back cover, and I'm going to do something a little different. I was going to cover it with fabric, but I'm going to have some fun. I'm trying to really play with color on this one, so I'm going to have a little fun with that. And of course, this is going to be the front cover, and I'm going to be using some of the same papers over it, but I'm going to be using a little more of Tracy Fox's Color Illusions. I think it was Color Illusions, Color Impressions. I'm sorry, her Color Impressions. And I found a children's book that kind of is real whimsical, like this fabric and like some of the papers I've already chosen. So I'm going to do more of a collage on the front using the paper that I use on the back cover, but it's going to be a little different. They're going to tie together, but I'm going to do some different things on each of them. So the first thing I need to do then is to glue all of these inside covers into place. Now, again, I use this really wonderful, it was a Asian garden theme paper tablet that my sister could have had forever. And, well, she gave it to me, and who knows, but I'm playing with color. I'm going to be really whimsical and a little out there with this. So I went to my little dewdrops, and I found like a bright pink, a purple, an aqua blue, a mint green, and I found an orange. And those are the colors that I'm going to be inking everything with. There's not going to be any distress inks in this. There's going to be these little dewdrops instead. The children's book that I'm looking at right now is a little older. Its pages are a little yellowed, but I think it's going to be fine. By the time I ink around them and get them really bright, I think it's going to work out really, really nice. Of course, all this is in my hat. I might put it together and it looks ridiculous. We'll just have to wait and see. So I'm going to glue, of course, I pinked these. I went around these with pink. I'm going to glue these two here. And after I glue those two in, I'm going to flip it over. And this is where you really got to pay attention. So this is my inside front. So this is my back cover, which means this is the inside of it. So I'm going to be putting those two other colors inside of here, or those two other papers. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to glue those in. I'll be back and I'll talk a little bit about the covers. Okay, I'm back. I've got everything on here now. I don't have anything on the front cover yet because I'm going to be doing some collaging using a children's book, some of the Tracy Fox color impressions, and I'm going to use some of the back cover paper as part of that whole collaging this main front. So what happens is you open the book up, you have your two end pieces, you'll put two signatures, at least that's what I'm going to do, two signatures in here. Then you open it back up, or you close it, and you have a new front or new cover. So this is the cover to the second half of the journal. You open it and you have your two cover papers, and here are where your signatures will be. Now, when I glued my end papers in, I wasn't paying attention. I glued them right on my spine. I cannot even begin to tell you why, what, when, where, how. There is no rhyme or reason to some of the things I do. But it's no big deal because I am in the process of dyeing some almost like a tie-dye bright colors of some cheesecloth that's going to be lining that anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, the one thing I am going to recommend, by the way, you open this, and when you're done, you turn it back over, and there, of course, doesn't look like much yet, but this is going to be your main front cover. And you can see it makes that little two. I've done a much better job on this one than I did the Edith Holden one, which is really upsetting for me that the Edith Holden one doesn't lay flat, that I chose the wrong glue. But I did learn some lessons that I can show you. I learned not to use wet glue when putting this fabric down. The other thing I learned is I used the Edith Holden book pages on the front covers. So this is my main front. I'll open it. That's the inside. Flip it. There's your second cover and inside. Now, the Edith Holden fabric or paper is really thin, and it actually, and I used Fabri-Tac, but I have bubbly places in it. Nothing that's bad or that's, going to hurt the integrity. It's just enough to annoy me. So I have boily plate, and I don't think it'll show up. If it does, good, but I got like some little almost wrinkly bubbles in it. So, and I really think it's because the paper was not thick enough. So for the end papers and the front covers for the book I'm doing now, I did choose to use cardstock. Now, when I start decorating this one, I did put it in the sewing machine and added some lace. I'm not intending to do that with the other one, but I might, you never know. And I have an antique heavy duty Singer sewing machine that's probably 75 years old, and it just does amazing. It can get through everything. I did buy myself a new modern heavy duty Singer machine for the zigzag stitch, but I have not opened that yet. So basically this is the basic construction, and now it's just a matter of making signatures, decorating it, and making it yours. I'm going to do less of a tutorial from this point on, and I'm probably just going to, as I get the signatures done, come in and show you that. As I do the covers, come in and show you that. Maybe show you some techniques I used, or some things I did with Tracy Fox's color impression. So that's my intentions. For a seasoned book or journal maker, this is all you need, I'm sure. You know how to sew signatures, to decorate. You've got your ephemera, you know what you love. You can just get at it. I hope to see you in part 3 when I show off some of the things I've done with this. I hope you enjoy.